I'm coming here again to tell you how things have been developing in Italy in the course of last year. So let's see, let's come from this. First of all, let's introduce sustainability. So how sustainable do we are? You know, maybe or you already know about this very well-known country overshoot day. We are, translated into a few words, we are consuming more Earth, equivalent Earths, like than possible. So we should consume less. And of course, Passivhaus is one of the keywords to address this problem. And as you can see here, Italy, in May, we already consume all the resources available for us. So from now, we are already consuming more than the resources available for us. And last year, this is from 2024, the 20th of July was the country overshoot day for Romania. What's happened since last year to this year? As you can see here, Romania is already at the 31st of May. So you were first last year at the 20th of July, and now you are progressively consuming more and more, thus approaching Italy even. We are still thinking that we are consuming too much, but that's why it's so important now to invest in energy efficiency. And as you can see, what we did in the world, we are based in Italy, as Dragos introduced before, but we are working since 18 years everywhere. And as you can see, here are some of the projects we have been following in several parts of the world in very challenging climates, like very warm, very hot and humid, or very cold, like now in Montreal. And as you can see, we also have been to Cameroon to explore the possibility to approach with a low energy efficiency approach, not a Passivhaus because the market is not ready yet, but let's say by using the Passivhaus tools, how to approach the Cameroonians' economy. And as well as in Bhutan, a very small country, greatest country, the happiest in the world, because they measure their happiness not by the GDP, but by the global country happiness, global national happiness index. It's something different from what we are thinking of, but they are also using Passivhaus approach to increase the comfort of their lives, of their houses, which are very leaky indeed. In Dubai, we went there to support, to give consultancy for the very first Passivhaus in the desert, as well as in India, New Delhi. This was the National Railway Museum, or as said in Vancouver, for instance, in Toronto, sorry, for the retrofit of a skyscraper according to the EnerPHit standard. So as you can see, Passivhaus adapts to every kind of climate, and we are happy to try to approach most of the countries, as well as in Italy. As you can see here, Passivhaus, since our foundation in 2011, has been rapidly growing, and we are trying to bring Passivhaus also toward the south. Looks like people in the south do not realize how much they are paying for air conditioning, for cooling, but only people who pay energy bills for heating come first. I don't understand why, but that's the reality. So people from the south, you know, are very smoother, they're waiting, but in the meantime, they pay the bills. And as soon as they realize they are paying too much, and our energy bills are so high, think, for instance, in Italy, the electricity costs range around 30 euro cents per kilowatt hour. which is pretty high. That's why people start realizing that maybe we should invest on sustainability, on insulation and airtightness and so on. The first question which we are addressed is, yes, but how much will I pay for it? Will I pay it back or not? And to answer this question in a professional way, we implemented into PHPP, in the Passivhaus software, an economic analysis. And every time we are approaching a new project, either for a new construction or for a retrofit, we always start from a viability analysis, from an economic feasibility analysis, in order to see how much more they are going to pay and whether these extra costs pay back through the energy savings already in the first year. We have carried out this research on some of our projects, and as you can see, Passivhaus is slightly more expensive than the other in the investment cost, but this decreases the energy bills at an extent that already in the first year, Passivhaus pays off. And that's a very important message for the client, because if we do some sort of economic analysis and the Passivhaus pays back, I don't know, in 10 years, and the client will never sign the contract, because he says, maybe in 10 years I've sold the house, I've separated from my wife, I've sold the house, whatever may happen. But if we are so good and we use the building physics, I'm a building physicist, so we are using the physics connected to the economics, and we try to reach this point where already in the first year Passivhaus pays off, the client will always sign the contract, because immediately this pays back. And that's the important message. So we always have this cost-effective, cost-optimal analysis in mind. In Italy, in 2023, so a couple of years ago, Banca d'Italia, so the Italian bank, issued a study which demonstrates that investing in the real estate also, but also in private investment, up to the Class A level, whatever it may be, we all know that the EPC contract, the energy audits are silly, and they claim that we are in Class A, whereas indeed we are not even in Class C. But investing really in a very good, low energy and very efficient building like a Passivhaus and an nZEB, a real nZEB, will really pay back. And in the market, the property increases its value. That's very important, even plus 25% more, which is very important, besides increasing the comfort and having very low energy bills. So how is this building stock in Italy? So now we have 12 million buildings, 2/3 of them built before 1971, the very first Italian energy code. And every year, only less than, more or less, 0.5% are the new builds. So we should definitely invest on the retrofit, which needs to be retrofitted because of no comfort, because of high energy bills, mold problems, and so on. As you can see, we have similar problems as you have, namely, we have isolated property. So I have a house, you have a house, he has a house, but it's not a house, it's an apartment inside a huge building block. And if the multifamily building must have all the tenants agree on the interventions, on the retrofits that should be made, this will be never possible. Because, of course, they don't agree on each other to on overall and specific and consistent retrofit intervention. That's the problem. And we have even 35 million units to be retrofitted. 93% of them are individually owned. So 75% of the EPC, of the energy contracts, let's say energy certificates, which have been issued since 2020, are not referred to the highest level. Even though, maybe you've heard about this, in Italy we had a very nice retrofit scheme, supporting scheme by the state after the pandemic called Super Bonus. So they gave back 110% back of the investment. So for free. So everyone went there. But as you can see, they were not pushing or pursuing, let's say, the A classes or something like this. The G, F, E, whatever, the lowest ever. So we trashed away a huge opportunity to retrofit our buildings up to the best possible level, thus going for a suboptimal level. And 2/3 of the consumptions in Italy, of the energy consumptions, are due to heating, and we are in Italy, so we are not sitting in Poland or in Siberia, we are just in Italy, and still 2/3 are just trashed away through heating our buildings, and 70% of our houses are heated through gas boiler. Very few amount, for instance, of district heating, teleriscaldamento, something like this. Let's see the situation in Romania. So you have 9 millions, more or less. Yeah, these are data got from the internet. 9 million buildings, 2/3 built before 1990. Half of them built in the Soviet era, blocks, the blockery, and so on. So only 0.2% per year are being built, new built, and the rest are living, as you can see here, also very similar situation. 96% of the apartments are individually owned. So we should definitely invest in the retrofits. How many EPC energy certificates have been registered in the past years? Just 1%, claiming they are all in classes A to D, so the maximum. But in fact, maybe they are not even E or F. So that's the situation. So we should definitely say we should do something better. 2/3 of the consumptions here as well are due to heating reasons, and 50% are basically biomass heaters, plus, especially in the big cities, district heating, but very inefficient one. And they are losing a lot of energy. So Passivhaus. Passivhaus might be the answer to address this for the new builds, and the EnerPHit for the renovations. EnerPHit can be of two kinds, like EnerPHit standard, normal renovation, or EnerPHit by components. So I work component by component. I put some insulation on the walls, I insulate the ceilings, I get better windows, and so on. Yeah, we can put all of them in order to increase the comfort, thus reducing the bills. Then we have a step-by-step approach. Step-by-step means that now I don't have the whole money for the overall investment, but I can plan a sort of retrofit plan in the next years in order to plan the overall intervention, and then step-by-step put some money for the first investment, like insulate a wall. I have some money for this, and I increase the comfort, while saving some money to be invested for the next step, which is maybe replacing the windows, increasing the air tightness, and installing a ventilation system. And then stop for the next years, and so on and so forth. That's also a very nice approach. If we don't manage to get there, we could also use the PHI low energy building, so let's say a lower level somehow, but still with the same level of comfort, thus saving, let's say, not maybe 8 to 10 times the heating demand with respect to the building stock, but maybe 3, 4, which is still a very good approach, also in a step-by-step approach. Last year, we presented the very first certification in the world for the retrofit of apartments, which have been developed in very, very closely with PHI, and we call it EnerPHit Unit. Unit stands for dwelling unit inside a multifamily building, which could either be residential or an office, for instance. And we have been doing this for this very first building apartment, in Bergamo. North-facing, not so well, let's say, but of course we are sitting there. We had problems for the external scaffoldings, so we had to do an interior insulation. So very tricky, and we did it, and this is how we did. So construction was to begin. I don't go too much in detail about this. You can see again the YouTube of last year where I presented this properly, but you can recognize it. So we had a double wall with bricks and air in the intermediate layer. So we just removed the internal wall layer, thus having some space for the insulation. Of course, the pillars, concrete pillars, stand, and we had to wrap up with insulation, thus trying to solve the thermal bridges there. So it can be doable. And pay attention that the tradespersons involved in this renovation were not skilled. So we had to train them also on site. So how to put a good insulation layer, a good airtight layer, everything sealed properly and so on, thus reaching the stringent requirements for the certification of EnerPHit Unit. Very happy about this. This is the final result. Also very nice looking also from the architectural point of view. Some people complain that Passivhaus do only ugly buildings, ugly renovations, but as you can see, the owner, of course, is an architect, and he did a very good job here, which could also be seen from outside through a thermographic imaging. And you can really notice the difference between the adjacent dwelling units, which haven't been retrofitted. We also are monitoring everything, so energy, temperature, humidity, and so on, and also energy bills, which still correspond until now to less than 2 euros, let's say, sort of a cappuccino cup a day in Italy, okay? So this is more or less what we pay for a Passivhaus renovation. In terms of investment costs, because one could guess, yes, but this would have been costed a lot, this is not true. The investment costs have been kept at a level that they are pretty comparable to a normal retrofit, which actually in Italy are around 16 to 1700 euros per square meter. So the same amount, but the guy had a Passivhaus apartment. So now we come with the second Passivhaus apartment. This time is located in Salerno. So Salerno is basically in southern part of Italy, and you can really see that the interventions are pretty similar with different thicknesses, or let's say with different thermal resistance. So it's even more easily achievable. So this is just a comparison, for instance, from what we did in Bergamo and what we are doing in Salerno. So here we have brick, external brick. Then we used polyurethane from the inside in order to minimize the space, thus having a very good very high thermal resistance, plus some minor wall, also for the electric pipes and ducts and everything like this. And as you can see, in correspondence to the pillar, concrete pillar, we had to use VIP panels, vacuum insulation panel, which with a thickness of 1 centimeter is sort of equivalent to 18 centimeters EPS. Of course, we are located in a very cold climate, like Bergamo, and we had to invest more to solve the thermal bridges. And then we had to use, of course, a barriera vapore, a vapor barrier, because we insulated that much inside, and of course, all the tradespersons had to be trained how to do this on site. Let's analyze Salerno. Salerno, we have a very similar building assembly. Bricks, also double wall with air layer, calcium silicate, and also AAC, for instance, gas beton. So we are just using Itong and multipore. So very common materials which have been used, we are being used in Italy nowadays in the south, and so they are pretty cheap, and therefore you can also achieve the Passivhaus level, and around the pillars we used polyurethane, because we are in a warmer climate. We don't need to have it so stringent like in Bergamo, but as you can see here, the temperatures we achieve on the inside, the interior temperature, pretty similar. So, as you can see, from time to time, we had also to address also even more complex thermal bridges, also through 3D calculations, which are totally non-trivial, but everything summed up, again, also in this case, the investment costs are really comparable to a normal retrofit. Now we are at the construction stage. So we started the demolition. Here you see this is the double wall which removed from the inside the bricks, thus, therefore to use this space for putting the insulation from the interior. And then also polyurethane on around the pillars, and also multipore calcium silicate boards as sort of bricks. They are bricks, but insulated bricks, which we use for the insulation layer, connected to the pour, and then AAC, autoclaved aerated concrete, also as an internal finishing, and then plaster everything. And around the pillars, we used some vapor barrier, because there we really needed it also from our calculations. In some points, we also used some aerogel behind around some pillars, concrete pillars, but this is the maximum we did in this very warm situation. So I can tell you more next year about how it ends up. Now we recently got a contract for the retrofit of a hotel in Rome. There's a Belgian company who decided to invest for this retrofit, and they want to achieve EnerPHit. Whether EnerPHit standard or step by step, we will see. We are still calculating it, we are modeling it, as you see here, design PH, and so I can tell you more next year also about this, but this is very promising and it's non-trivial. So we already built a new hotel at the Garda Lake in the northern part of Italy. Now we are in Rome with non-trained craftspersons, which makes the things very non-trivial, non-trained professionals. And you can believe me how difficult it is to be listened by these guys when you speak about air tightness, thermal bridges, you punch everything, you pass everything, and people do not really realize that we need an integrated design between all the professionals. But I hope we will manage it. Of course, shit happens everywhere, always, even in Passivhaus buildings. So they just cut the exterior thermal insulation in order to let the building services go through, or even not insulating them, or they are really cracking, ripping the whole airtight layer just because they used a non-proper, not a proper sealing, or not sealing through a fast plastering before installing the installation things. We always said that, but nevertheless, this is the situation. And of course, patience, we had to redo everything by scratch. So this was before, and this is after. Again, this was before and after. So we had to remove everything, plaster everything, reinstall everything. Nothing to do, because otherwise it would have costed so much, thus also, while also providing some issues for the mold growth and so on. So why properly retrofitting? Also, this applies for new builds. First of all, for hygienic criterion. So hygiene means no mold, no condensation. We can address it. I don't care about reaching Passivhaus. I must tell you, but I do care about avoiding suffering for the people, avoiding diseases or whatever, health problems. So in first glance, we have to achieve the hygienic criterion. Then comfort. Comfort is also important, which has nothing to do with hygienic criterion. Comfort means that I can stay as close as I like to a window, not being discomforted by this interior surface temperatures which are so low that after a certain time I feel not comfortable. So this is also very important for the people. Then we speak about sustainability and, of course, energy and economic approach. And therefore, after we do all the first 2 points, the other got for free. And it's very easy to achieve Passivhaus or EnerPHit. Of course, we can support for it. And Passivhaus is really the key to approach also this kind of retrofit, not only new builds. So what do we want? Do we want to increase the consumptions, having less and less, like it happens in India and so on? Part of the population goes up and the other have less and less? Or because components are there, we can choose to have the maximum decrease in the consumptions. This is just sustainability. And I thank you for your attention, so mulțumesc. And you can find us at the stand of Ingegneria Creativa, and we are your partner here together with them for retrofits. Thank you for your attention, and please ask whenever you want to ask.
Thank you very much, Francesco. That was very inspiring. I would like to start the row of questions. From the building physics point of view, when you increase the comfort and interior temperature of one apartment and you make these people happy, you inevitably lower the interior surface temperature at the neighboring not buildings, but apartments. Is there something that you have looked into, or how did you mitigate this? Because some of the neighbors might be very unhappy seeing that the mold is accelerating in their homes, mainly due to something that you did somewhere not part of their apartment.
Yeah, Dragos pointed out a very good point. That's really the case. Not in our case, but that might be. In fact, for the very first design we did when last year in Bergamo, when we got the first EnerPHit unit, we pointed out this aspect to the client, because if you are not giving some heat to the neighboring apartments, of course they might be decrease their surface temperature, thus reaching the mold temperature. And then they had no problems, then you do the renovation and they have problems. They could really bring you to the court and to get some money back for the issues they might have. Luckily, we had to investigate the question from the beginning, also last time, so we sectioned everything vertically in order to have, in the worst point, which is the French window to the balcony of the neighboring, plus the roller, shutter, which is not insulated of our apartment, then we renovated it. Plus, roller shutter of the neighboring apartment below and so on. So very, very cold point. And we demonstrated that from before to after the renovation, still it was bad and it's still bad from their side. So if they had some mold, they will still keep on having it. Of course, we reduced the interior temperature by 1 degree, 1.5 degrees. But just in case something similar happens, either we suggest the tenants, our client, to give as a present a ventilation system to the neighboring apartments. I mean, that's life. Or we should try to increase artificially the thermal bridges towards the neighboring apartment and then giving them some more heat, unfortunately, and investing some more money in better components, better ventilation system, but that's life. So it's not easy to approach such a thing, because you pointed out a very important point that nobody thinks of.
Yeah, we need to think positive and take the power of good example, and maybe this would be a good incentive for everybody to start thinking towards renovating their
also
houses.
In a stepwise approach, also step by step. We can do this.
Exactly. Are there any questions in the room? Would anybody like to express their opinions, ask Francesco? If not, I'm sure, like he said, you can find him at the Ingineria Creativa stand and get in contact with him, because you are one of the pioneers of this type of renovation, unit by unit. And I can see the progress since the last year when we have met. Now there are multiple projects going on, and I think it will take off, hopefully also in Romania.
I hope to be able to support all of you if you want. It's not crazy. We can do this, and just start thinking of.
Thank you very much, Francesco.
Thank you, everybody. See you.